Hi, this is Ken Gaddy. I'm representing the museum staff today. Yes, we're shut down during the virus situation. We want you to come back and visit us when that opportunity arises. We'll let everybody know. But we're going to do a few videos, and today we have Tommy Wilcox on the phone with us. Tommy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Ken.
I know it's a kind of a strange time, isn't it?
It is, man. It's really horrible what's going on.
And we'll make it through together, so everybody can stay home and get all the yard work done and all that kind of stuff, I guess.
Get caught up.
Well, let's talk a little bit for a few minutes here today. I don't want to keep you too long, but tell us how you got first contacted by the University of Alabama during your recruiting process. What was that first contact like?
It was a letter that, they sent out my junior year. They have like a prospect package and, had the Coleman Coliseum. I think that was fairly new at the time, or upgraded a little bit at the time. And they sent a big brochure of all that. And of course, back then Alabama was winning, championships all the time. So, they had all those pictures and had all the great players, Tony Nathan, Jeff Rutledge, and, that whole group of guys. And they sent pictures also of just all the accomplishments the University of Alabama had at the time. And it was pretty interesting, man. Very few colleges at that time could match what Alabama was doing.
I know I've heard before you talk about your visit to campus. There was you were a quarterback. There was another quarterback on campus when you were visiting, wasn't it?
Gosh, I don't even remember. That's been so long. There was a bunch of us.
Yeah, I heard Coach Griska talking about how many they had on campus at one time, and when y'all were all here together.
Yeah, we had a bunch of people. I want to say that year they kind of recruited like 9 or 10 quarterbacks, and then Coach Bryant would just, he would get you, and then he'd move you around, whether it's wide receiver or tight end, stayed at quarterback or defensive back or something. He always thought in high school the best athlete was the quarterback, so he'd go after the athletes and then just move them where he needed them to be.
Yeah. So we got some questions from some of the fans, and we'll mix some of those in as we talk. But I know you've been a big supporter of the museum really from the start. And you were involved with us and helped us all that time, and we really appreciate everything you've done for us through the years.
You are welcome. It's great to be part of the University of Alabama and anything Coach Bryant, has touched.
Well, one of the questions here was, did Coach Bryant ever pronounce your hometown correctly?
No. He always put an N in there. He called it Hanrahan instead of Harahan. And I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody told me at one time there was a player that played for him. His last name was Hanrahan. And I just wonder if he always tried to remember my hometown by remembering the last name of one of his players. But I never did look that up to see if there was the Hanrahan last name.
Well, maybe people listening to this can tell us if they actually think you're from Hanrahan.
Instead of Harahan, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the way we all heard it, was a Hanrahan.
Right.
Once you give
old Charlie Thornton used to correct him on the show on Sunday, and he'd say, "Coach, that's Hanrahan. Coach, that's Harahan, not Hanrahan." And Coach said, "Yeah, it's Hanrahan." He still wouldn't be corrected.
So give folks a feel what it was like to be at practice. I I know there's big numbers of people, but give them an idea of what practice was like.
Well, usually we had 4 or 5 periods, and usually the last period was always an NT, which meant no time. And it just, however Coach Bryant felt at the time, it would go as long as he wanted, depending on how well you were doing throughout the practice. So it might be, like a 20, a 20, a 20, and a no time was generally how practice was, and that was after warm-ups. But you knew you were in for a rough day when you looked at the practice schedule and there was 4 no times up there, and I have been in practice before where, the offense wasn't doing well and he let the whole defense go and the offense stayed out there under the lights. And, back then they didn't have any time, it didn't matter. He controlled all the time he had with you. So if he wanted to keep you to 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, he could do it. I think now there's all kind of limits on stuff like that.
Yeah, now I think they're limited to 20 hours a week. That's including 3 hours for the game when school has started. So y'all probably for that pretty regularly.
Yeah, a couple days that would have been 20 hours.
2 days of practice. And one of the questions we got from folks ahead of time, people who are following the museum's Facebook site, is they want to know what's the let's see, I'll get it right here. What's the hardest thing you ever had to do at one of the practices? Tell them about a tough day at practice.
The toughest practice I ever was through was my freshman year. Coach Bryant was known to players that he had come in, he'd gut check you. And what I meant by that is he tried to see if you was going to quit on him or not. So you would never get a break. You was always, he always had you on the field. If it was, say, 100-play scrimmage or 75-play scrimmage, he would just leave you in the entire time. And during spring one year, we were out at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and it was 100 degrees, and we won the AstroTurf, and it was probably 115 degrees, and we had a 100-play scrimmage and 25 plays per quarter. And he put me in on defense for 25. Then he put me in on offense for 25. Then he put me back on defense for 25, and then offense 20. So I never got out, and I was dragging. My tongue was on the ground. And I'd have a couple of coaches come by every now and then, and they'd say, he's gut checking. You'd hang in there. He's gut checking. Hang in there. And I made it through, but that was one of the toughest days I ever had.
And if there are some stories you can tell folks about Bryant Hall and how it was like to live with the other players, having roommates, and how was that situation?
Bryant Hall was pretty neat. I think now they put them just about anywhere in apartments all around the city or whatever. But Coach Rutledge kind of ran Bryant Hall, and you could keep an eye on all the players. I mean, you had curfews, and I mean, all he'd have to do is walk up the stairs and check in all the rooms. Now, people spread out around the city. I just don't know how coaches keep up with the players this day and time. But it was a great place. You had study hall. You had all that in the same building. You ate all your meals there. I mean, it was just, you washed your clothes there. They had a little entertainment area that you could play ping pong and pool and all that stuff at night, shuffleboard, until the NCAA said that was, against the rules. But it was really a great place. You got to meet people from all over the country. You got to meet players, and I had, my roommate was Gary Bramlett when I first started, and you're only about 3 foot apart, and Gary was a big old offensive lineman out of Georgia, and boy, he snored. So I didn't sleep for the first 6 months that I roomed with him. And, you know, after the first year, they let us change roommates. So I had to get out of there, and I got with Gerald Sprinkle, and everything was better. But I really enjoyed Bryant Hall, and I enjoyed it was first class. Everything about it was first class.
You know, as we've talked to players through the years, and players kind of remember the games a little different than fans do. Tell us about some of the plays or players or places that stood out for you from your playing time.
Whew, everything's a little. There's people will come up to me all the time and they'll say, "Hey, remember when you did this?" or "Remember when that happened?" And I really don't remember, certain plays in the different games. But big games like, I remember the Auburn game when we played them in the 315. Coach Bryant when he broke Coach Stagg's record. I remember that because it was just, the president called him after the game, and that was big time. I remember us playing Notre Dame in Birmingham, and that was a big game too, but it had rained all night. It was just a horrible thing. But a lot of we were so successful back then that, to the players, our job was to practice and get after it week to week. And you had very little time to look back on the games that passed and to try and remember the things you done, because you always were looking forward to the next week. But bowl games and stuff like that, I do remember those. It was pretty neat to go out to the Cotton Bowl a couple of times and the Sugar Bowl, and then end it with Coach Bryant at the Liberty Bowl game. That was pretty nice. Yeah,
and when we've talked to a lot of players, just like you just said, when the play's over, they kind of forget it. They move on to the next play, and that's kind of the way you're taught to do it, and the way you have to do it. I mean, if you spend time thinking about that play 4 plays ago, you're getting beat again on this play. So.
And so, different plays mean different things to different people. So what they might think was, meant something to them, in your mind, it might have not been as important. So you just don't remember,
Yeah. So and we've heard that a lot. We'll show players videos and like, what game is this? What year is this? It just kind of remembered a different way than fans do a lot of those times. So, yeah, you were in that 315 game. Was there a lot of pressure on the players leading up to that? Did y'all know the situation?
We did. And, Coach Bryant used to always, try to make it not as much pressure and tried to keep us away from the press as much as possible. But you got to remember now, this was a pretty big milestone. He was fixing to beat Coach Stagg's record. And there were people, not just from this country, there were people from all over the world that were at this game that were reporting. You had video media, your print media, magazine media. I mean, you had everybody that was wanted to be at this game just to say they were at it. So we kind of felt the pressure, but once the game started, it was just another game, really.
Yeah. Did y'all really talk to the media? Was that something that y'all had contact with? I know they kind of.
They did. They were, it was kind of opened up in the locker room, like after the game, anybody could ask anybody anything. I know there's all kind of rules now. You don't talk to freshmen or this or that or whatnot. But back then, it was kind of opened, and if you were somebody that played a big role in the game or leading up to the game, and you were a star player or whatever, they through Charlie Thornton, they had access to you.
Did y'all watch the Coach Bryant TV shows?
We did, because you always wanted him to give you his approval on how you played. He'd always say, well, so-and-so played a good game or this or that, or, you know. So you wanted to watch it to see if he thought you did a good job. And so now I wouldn't say we watched all of them, but, you know, a lot of the players watched most of them.
Here's a question from the followers of the museum on Facebook earlier. They sent this in. Is there one memory of Coach Bryant that you'll never forget?
I'm going to tell you this story that was the most impactful to me because there's so many Bear Bryant stories. You know, him coming to get me when I decided I wasn't going to come up here. You know, he flew down by himself, just by himself in the airplane with 2 pilots. That was important to me because it really changed my life. But one of the stories I remember the most is we were playing Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And usually when the players get off the bus, they grab there's a table and it's got all your names and a room key on it. You grab that, then you get on the elevator and go up to your room. And there's an itinerary of what all's expected of you that weekend and stuff. And as I was one of the last ones to get on the elevator, and I think it was Gerald Sprinkle with me. And we got on and the elevator was fixing to shut, and this big hand came in the elevator and it opened the doors back up. And it was two big guys in trench coats. And about that time, Gerald Ford, who was the former president, got on the elevator with these 2 big old bodyguards. And he turned to one of them and said, "Are we going to Paul's room, or does Paul want us to come to his room?" And the bodyguard said, "He wants us to go to his room." And I said, "Man, isn't this something? This was the former president of the United States, and he's going to Coach Bryant's room instead of Coach Bryant going to his room." And I said, "Man, that's pretty awesome."
Well, that's a great story. Another question from the followers of the museum is, are there any lessons from Coach Bryant that you passed on to your kids?
This is another story that I heard from one of the coaches, and I've always tried to use it with my kids. And I want to say it was the Orange Bowl against when Alabama played Texas, and Joe Namath was quarterback, and they got down to the goal line at the end of the game and had a chance to win the football game. And it was kind of a goal line stand, and Joe Namath tried to do a quarterback sneak. And everybody thought that he had scored except the referees. The referees said he didn't get in. And as the players were coming off the field, some of the linemen were complaining about, "Coach, we got robbed. We got robbed." Namath was in, and Coach Bryant, you know, he never passed up an opportunity to give someone an education. And he told him, he said, "Hell, if you'd have blocked well enough that Joe could have walked in the end zone, then there'd have been no question, would there have been?" And I use that to tell my kids that don't leave it up to a teacher to give you a passing grade, or don't leave it up to someone to give you a job. Do so well in the interview, do so well in the classroom that there's no question that you'll pass or that you'll get the job. And don't leave it up to a referee to decide whether you were in bounds when you caught the ball or whether you scored or not. Do it well enough so that there's no question. And I tried to use that with my kids coming up, and I think it's a great lesson that everybody could learn from.
That's a great. Let's talk about a little bit about what you're doing now. Tell folks what your passion is these days.
Well, for the last 18 years, I've been doing Tommy Wilcox Outdoors, which is a hunting and fishing show. And I've taken coaches from around the SEC. I've taken, country musicians, former players. We do a lot this day and time with kids who are unfortunate, people that have last wishes, a little bit of everything. So we mix it up a little bit, and whether it's turkey hunting, deer hunting, or fishing. We've been doing it now, pretty long time. And I've been very lucky and blessed to be able to do something you love doing. They say you never have to work a day in your life if you do what you love doing. And this is something that I've been blessed financially to be able to do. And I really do appreciate it.
Is there still a site that you want to fish, that you want to hunt? There's places you still haven't been, or still on your bucket list, so to speak?
Yeah, I've really gotten a lot of the bucket list stuff out the way. I've always wanted to I've been to Mexico a number of times, and I wanted to go over there and kill the Gould turkey. And I did that a couple of years ago. And one of the things I want to do is go to Canada and hunt. There's a duck hunt place up there where there's just thousands and thousands of ducks that they put decoys out, and these ducks come in on you, and they say you gotta, it'll burn your barrel up, you shoot so many times. I'd like to do something like that, but most of all, I've gotten most all my stuff out the way, and really now I just enjoy watching these young kids, or someone who's never taken a deer to take one, or someone who has a death sentence and through no fault of their own, they have a disease or something, and you're able to take them to kill a turkey or a deer or something like that. That's pretty special. Then I can capture it on video and burn a copy for their parents to have. And that means more to me than me shooting a deer or me catching a big fish.
We got about 5 minutes left in our time here, so tell folks how they can see your show.
It's on WVUA out of Tuscaloosa. So it's on Comcast, Charter, it's on Spectrum, it's on DirecTV. Just look up WVUA 23. You can also go on YouTube and just type in Tommy Wilcox Outdoors. We stream all our shows on that too, so you can watch it anytime you want to watch it, and any show you want to watch, whether it's Hunt with Hank or Fishing with Coach Saban or something like that. I mean, you can go on there and type in the stuff and pull it up and watch it.
And a couple of questions that we got asked are related to your show. So what's the biggest gobbler and the biggest bass that you've ever caught?
Oh, the biggest bass was 11 pounds. Caught that at Sweet Apple Farms in Livingston. The biggest turkey I've ever taken was, I think, like 22.5 pounds. I think I killed that in Mississippi. I had the biggest long beard I've ever killed. I killed the turkey that had a 14-inch beard. That was the longest beard. But if you want to see any pictures or video also, they can go to TommyWilcox.com. We got a website, TommyWilcox.com, and they can check out all the pictures there too. So you can catch it TV, Facebook, YouTube, the internet, you name it. We really all across social media.
Well, we want people to check out TommyWilcox.com. Look for the shows on YouTube. If you're not in Tuscaloosa, I watch them all the time. They're very entertaining. And it's good to see you with all those folks and just people having a good time.
That's right. And, it used to be I really enjoyed hunting with people or fishing with people that you idolized as a young kid, or that you would love to meet one day. And I got to do a lot of those things, got to fish with Kenny Stabler, and boy, that meant a lot to me because he was such a great guy, never had an ego. he was something else. So I really enjoyed that. And the great thing about it is I got to do Coach Rutledge. I got to do a lot of people. And the good thing is I have it on video that I can watch anytime I want to watch. So it's pretty cool.
Well, Tommy, we appreciate you spending time with us today. Folks, thanks for listening to our time together with Tommy. We'll get you back to the Bryant Museum as soon as possible. Check out Tommy's sites on social media, YouTube. Follow him. And Tommy, I'll say one last thing to you. Let's roll Tide together.
Roll Tide, man.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Ken.
We'll
Thank
see you
you
soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.